My mom and I have, and we've been through a lot together, so, I mean, there's nothing I wouldn't do for her or anything. So, I just don't know what happened.
Somebody put an axe in the back of her head. Who would have done that?
I don't know anybody.
So what did you see when you walked in your mom's room?
It was our axe in the side of my mom's room.
I do remember being in tears by the time that conversation ended. She backed it up with like strong adjectives and then strong emotions. With like, I'm so disappointed in you, which I've heard that before. Okay, blah, blah. And then she's like, you beat him. That's when it's like, okay, Joe. No, she kept going, kept going, kept going, kept going.
Welcome back to Monsters Among Us. Today, we dive into the chilling story of Carlos Hallowell, an ordinary teenager hiding a dark secret that would horrify everyone who knew him. What could push a son to commit such an unthinkable act against the woman who raised him? Join us as we unravel the unsettling details of a tragic betrayal that ended in a brutal murder, leaving everyone wondering, how could this happen? Denise Hallowell, a 57-year-old Florida native, was known for her warm and nurturing spirit, as well as her deep love for both people and animals. Before becoming a beloved science teacher, she worked as a veterinary technician, sharing her kindness with all living things. Having been adopted herself, Denise had a strong bond with her adoptive parents and a heartfelt connection to the idea of adoption. This passion inspired her to open her heart and home to 2 children in need, offering them a chance to escape poverty and experience the love of a devoted family. In 2006, Denise adopted Carlos, a young boy from Guatemala whose early years were marred by significant hardship and trauma. Despite her efforts to provide a stable and loving environment, Carlos was soon diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, foreshadowing the dark and tragic events that would later unfold. Still, Denise never gave up on him. She poured all her love and patience into helping Carlos, believing he deserved a second chance at happiness. Gradually, her dedication seemed to pay off. Carlos began to flourish, his grades improved, and he quickly made a name for himself in sports, displaying both intelligence and athletic talent. Denise was overjoyed, convinced that her hard work was making a difference. With Carlos thriving, Denise made another life-changing decision. In 2011, she adopted Angel, a young boy from Honduras, hoping to give Carlos a sibling and create the close-knit family she had always dreamed of. On the surface, everything appeared perfect. An unstoppable mother building a loving home, brick by brick. But beneath the facade, a storm was brewing, and it was only a matter of time before everything unraveled. Unfortunately, Denise's dream of building a happy family began to crumble. Despite her best intentions, the deep trauma both boys had endured couldn't simply be healed with love. Carlos and Angel started rebelling in different ways, and their behavior grew increasingly alarming. Carlos, in particular, spiraled into darkness, turning to alcohol at a young age to numb his anger, frustration, and depression. His actions escalated dangerously, leading him into the world of substances no teenager should ever encounter. Angel's rebellion took a different path. Though he wasn't involved with drugs or alcohol, he often attempted to run away, disappearing from the house without warning. The most terrifying incident occurred on September 19, 2015, when Denise was forced to call the authorities after Angel vanished. Hours later, he was found hiding in a neighbor's shed. That incident triggered a police investigation that would reveal a darker reality than anyone had imagined. When officers arrived at Denise's home, they made a disturbing discovery. Angel's bedroom door was locked from the outside, and the windows were nailed shut. The room itself was almost empty, with only a mattress and a few scattered books. During the investigation, Angel claimed he felt more like a prisoner than a son, alleging that he was locked in the room for hours and forced to use a bucket as a toilet. He also accused both Denise and Carlos of being abusive toward him. After Angel's alarming statements, Child Protective Services quickly intervened, removing both boys from Denise's home for their safety and placing them in a temporary foster home. Denise was arrested on abuse charges, and the consequences were swift. She lost her job at the local school, and her reputation was in ruins. She spent 2 weeks in jail, but the case was far from resolved. As authorities delved deeper, the story grew increasingly complex. During the investigation, Carlos provided a starkly different account, denying Angel's accusations and insisting that Denise had never mistreated them. In fact, he claimed that Angel had often been the aggressor, acting out violently against Denise. According to Carlos, the extreme measures, like nailing the windows shut, were necessary to keep Angel from running away or harming others. The investigation also uncovered a journal that Denise had kept, where she expressed her fears and frustrations about Angel's unpredictable behavior. Her writings detailed the steps she had taken to protect the household and her deep concern for Angel's well-being, both at home and at school. It became evident that the situation was far more complicated than anyone had initially understood. What had initially appeared to be a straightforward case of abuse was quickly unraveling. Angel, who had cast himself as a victim, was now revealed to be a violent and destructive presence, even lashing out at his foster parents after being removed from Denise's care. This raised a crucial question. Had Denise been struggling to protect her family from a deeply troubled child, or was there still more to the story that remained hidden? As investigators continued to dig deeper, a more complex picture emerged. It became clear that Denise had been seeking help long before the situation spiraled out of control. She had reached out to her pastor for guidance, hoping to find a way to manage Angel's increasingly erratic behavior. Denise had also consulted with Angel's pediatrician, trying to secure the support and treatment he needed to address his troubling tendencies. After 5 months of investigation, in February 2016, the abuse charges against Denise were officially dropped. However, being cleared of the accusations could not undo the damage that had been done. Her reputation was shattered, and she had lost the teaching job she cherished. Life could not return to the way it was before the allegations. The personal and professional scars ran too deep for things to ever feel the same again.
Hallowell may never fully have her life back, but she is just anxious to clear her name. This is really a story of the justice system, relying on evidence and witnesses and ultimately finding an accused woman to be without blame. It is what she's been trying to prove from the very beginning. For 5 months,
situations are not always what they seem.
Denise Hallowell's life has been in limbo.
She'll never be the same person because in the back of her mind, we've rattled this woman and this family's foundation.
It started last September with a 911 call. Her youngest of 2 adopted sons was missing. Citrus County deputies found the 12-year-old hiding in a neighbor's shed.
He begins to tell them how he didn't eat, punished with food, he's abused by his mother, he's locked in his room for hours on end. These things are patently false.
But deputies arrested her, calling it one of the worst cases of child we've seen in a very long time. At face value, it sounded awful. Both her children were taken. She lost her job as a teacher, all the while trying to explain her son suffered from behavioral and anger issues. Sometimes a lock was the only thing keeping him from running away.
He is troubled. I had logged 3 years worth of behavior on my youngest son as trying to manage this and take notes. I offered that immediately on that day. That was also ignored.
The accusing child was placed in foster care, but soon came reports of violent outbursts, that he struck the foster parent and threatened to accuse him of child. Based on his behavior and willingness to make false accusations, the state attorney's office said it's unlikely a jury would find the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
The government didn't null pros or drop the case. They never filed it.
Hallowell was cleared.
It's been a total of 5 months. in a nightmare for 5 months.
Pictures of Hallowell's sons tell a very different story. There were fishing trips, raise games, and vacations.
I am a forever mom.
While her legal troubles are gone, she faces a new battle. Google the name Denise Hallowell and you'll see the damaging headlines. For now, she carries this piece of paper, proof that accusations don't always mean guilt.
Don't be quick to judge, and that's exactly what happened here.
After clearing her name, Denise found a new sense of purpose by taking a job working with autistic children, returning to the work she loved most, helping others. This new chapter gave her a chance to rebuild her life, and slowly, a sense of normalcy began to take shape. Carlos, who had stood by his mother throughout the ordeal, was allowed to come back home. Unfortunately, the same wasn't true for Angel. Because of the serious accusations he had made, he wasn't permitted to return to Denise's care and instead remained with a foster family. His troubles, however, didn't end there. Angel continued to struggle with destructive behavior, including frequent outbursts and attempts to run away, indicating deep-rooted issues that still needed to be addressed. With Carlos back at home, one might expect life to settle into a peaceful routine, but that was far from the case. Despite Denise's best efforts, Carlos continued to grapple with the trauma of his early years, leading to frequent conflicts between them. His behavior grew increasingly erratic. He began getting into trouble at school, experimenting with substances, and sneaking girls into the house without Denise's permission, creating ongoing tension at home. Things took a darker turn when Carlos became involved in dealing substances. Neighbors started noticing a steady stream of unfamiliar faces coming and going from the house at all hours, fueling rumors about his activities. Even more alarming were the strange disappearances of local pets. Once Carlos and Denise moved into their new home, animals in the neighborhood began to vanish, leaving residents uneasy and suspicious about what might be happening behind closed doors. In one chilling incident, a neighbor asked Carlos to watch her chickens while she was out of town. When she returned, she was met with a horrifying sight. One of her chickens had been brutally mutilated with a hammer and left on her porch. The horror didn't end there. Soon after, her cat went missing, only to be found later gruesomely sliced in half and left on her lawn. The neighbor was devastated and terrified, struggling to understand who could commit such violent acts. Although she had no concrete proof, a dark suspicion began to creep in. Carlos had been watching her chickens, and the timing of these gruesome incidents felt far too coincidental to dismiss. During this tumultuous period, Carlos and Denise's relationship remained strained and volatile. Despite Denise's efforts to guide him, Carlos's rebellious behavior only intensified, pushing her patience to the limit. Neighbors frequently overheard heated arguments, with Denise expressing her frustration over working so hard, only for Carlos to bring more chaos into her life. For many teens, rebellion is just a phase they eventually outgrow, but not Carlos. At only 16, his struggles took a darker turn when he attempted to end his life by crashing his car into a tree. The tension between him and Denise continued to grow, leading to frequent, intense clashes that sometimes resulted in Denise kicking him out. During these times, Carlos would stay with friends for a while before returning home, but the cycle of conflict and heartbreak persisted. In January 2019, Carlos was expelled from his private school due to worsening behavior and substance abuse. The news sparked a heated argument with Denise, which quickly escalated. In the chaos, Denise called the police for assistance. When officers arrived, they found her with a broken wrist and signs of a possible concussion. Despite their concern, Denise insisted that Carlos hadn't hurt her, explaining that she had fallen during the argument. The police were skeptical, but since Denise refused to press charges, there was little they could do. Shortly after, Carlos made another desperate attempt to take his own life, but he survived. Frustrated and feeling at her wit's end, Denise once again kicked him out of the house. This time, Carlos moved in with friends Stephanie and Damian Irving. The couple knew about the turbulent relationship between Carlos and Denise, but often sided with Carlos, believing that Denise was unfairly directing her anger and frustration toward him. Stephanie, in particular, felt that Denise's expectations for Carlos were unreasonably high, given his age and circumstances. While staying with the Irvings, Carlos began taking an antidepressant, which helped stabilize his mood. Stephanie noticed a significant change in him. He seemed calmer and more stable, free from the constant stress of living with Denise. For the first time in a long while, there was a glimmer of hope for his recovery. Several weeks later, Denise reached out to Carlos, hoping for a reconciliation and inviting him to move back home. However, Stephanie was strongly opposed to the idea, fearing that their volatile relationship would only reignite the chaos and constant arguments. Denise's friends shared these concerns, worried about her safety and believing that Carlos could pose a real threat if tensions flared again. Despite the warnings, Carlos felt a strong urge to return to the home where he had grown up. Torn between his longing for stability and the risks involved, he decided to weigh his options carefully, even making a list of pros and cons. One of his biggest concerns was losing Denise's financial support for college, which he saw as essential for his future. In a bold move, Carlos gave Denise an ultimatum. He would come back only if she agreed to certain conditions, including financial support for his college tuition, a car, and other assurances that would provide him with a sense of stability. After tense negotiations, Denise reluctantly agreed to his terms, hoping this arrangement would lead to a better relationship and a fresh start for them both. Yet, doubts lingered in the back of her mind. Was this really the right choice? On June 12, 2019, Carlos moved back in with Denise, but the reunion was anything but harmonious. His friends, Stephanie and Damian, disapproved of his decision, leading to a fallout that left him without the support of two people who genuinely cared for him. Once again, he found himself trapped in the chaotic cycle that had characterized their relationship, with neighbors hearing the all-too-familiar sounds of screaming matches coming from the house. Just a month after his return, on July 13, 2019, Carlos and Denise attended a mourning funeral. Afterward, they returned home to rest, but their brief moment of peace was short-lived. That afternoon, Carlos awoke to the sound of barking dogs and decided to check on Denise in her room. What he discovered would forever change the course of his life. Denise lay lifeless on her bed, an axe embedded in her head.
This 911, what is the address of the emergency? 4419 Southwest 4th. I need someone here immediately right now. Okay, tell me exactly what's happening. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. Just stay on the line with me, okay? Okay.
Carlos promptly called 911 to report the horrifying discovery, and local police arrived at the scene shortly afterward. As investigators taped off the area to preserve the crime scene, detectives asked Carlos to come to the station for further questioning. During the initial interview, Carlos remained calm as he recounted the day's events.
I hear barking from my side of the house, which is abnormal. Our dogs are supposed to be in that little fenced-in area. So the front door was wide open. So went to go find the dogs, checked around the property, looking for them. I couldn't find them, so I went to go wake my mom up to help me find them, and then I found her there.
So what did you see when you walked in your mom's room?
It was our axe in the side of my mom's room, and I could still hear her trying to.
When asked if he knew who would do this, Carlos seemed to have no idea.
My mom and I have, and we've been through a lot together, so, I mean, there's nothing I wouldn't do for her or anything. So, I just don't know what happened.
Obviously, we're not looking at an accidental situation here, right? Somebody put an axe in the back of her head. Who would have done that?
I don't know anybody who would have done that. All my mom's close friends, anything we'd be Bludgeoned. This is the only people that I know.
She don't have any enemies.
Not that I know of. She
would.
Kept to herself. So,
You guys are kind of out there in the middle.
Yeah, we're in
nowhere.
We're in the middle of nowhere. We just keep to ourselves. We put signs up because we've had small intruders and then we hear noises at night. So she just puts all that stuff up for safety. So I don't know.
She hasn't had any problems with anybody?
Not that I know of. She also stays private from me as well. I only know what I need to know.
Carlos explained that nothing had seemed out of the ordinary before the tragedy. He and Denise had attended the funeral together, then shared a slice of apple pie afterward, a brief moment of normalcy amid the grief. After returning home, they retreated to their separate bedrooms for a much-needed nap after such a taxing day. Carlos recounted how the dog's loud barking abruptly woke him. Concerned, he went to check on Denise, only to stumble upon a horrific sight: her lifeless body, an axe lodged in her head. He stressed that despite their frequent arguments, he never imagined anything like this could happen. Even after being read his Miranda rights, Carlos continued speaking candidly, revealing that he and Denise had led largely separate lives, filled with tension but devoid of any real indication of the darkness that would ultimately consume them. He delved deeper into the chilling moment he found his mother in her bedroom, insisting that she was still breathing when he first entered the room. However, he chose not to perform CPR, fearing that moving her might cause further harm. When police questioned him about any unusual sounds he might have heard in the house, Carlos explained that he was a deep sleeper and hadn't noticed anything out of the ordinary. Carlos admitted that the axe found in Denise's head belonged to them and was usually kept in the garage, though he couldn't explain how it ended up in her bedroom. After hours of intense interrogation, he suggested that his adopted brother, Angel, who hadn't been seen in over 4 years, might have had a motive to harm Denise. This claim caught the detectives' attention, prompting them to investigate the possibility of Angel's involvement. However, as they dug deeper, investigators quickly found this theory to be baseless. Angel was already in police custody for an unrelated crime at the time of Denise's death, making it impossible for him to have been involved. This revelation only deepened the mystery surrounding Denise's murder and cast further suspicion on Carlos, whose story was raising more questions than answers. As detectives worked to piece together the details of the crime, they examined Carlos's phone records to verify his account of events. To their surprise, his phone had pinged near the lake behind their home around the time he made the 911 call, raising concerns about his movements that day. With this new lead, investigators decided to search the lake, hoping to find evidence that might shed light on what really happened. Their search proved fruitful and damning. The discoveries only intensified suspicions, leading detectives to call Carlos back in for further questioning on September 16, 2019. This time, they focused on the glaring inconsistencies in his story. As the pressure mounted, Carlos began to unravel, inadvertently revealing more than he intended. Despite the gravity of the situation, he seemed alarmingly unaware of the seriousness of his predicament, as if he didn't fully grasp that his story was falling apart around him.
I just want to check the hallway. I came in days later, so I'm still catching up on some of the stuff we've had. Alright, so you never went in the backyard at all. You just went inside, seen your mom. Your phone was already on you at that point?
Yeah, like always, it's easy.
Okay, and then you walked outside and called 911.
I called when I was there. I was in the room when I called.
Okay. On your phone itself, it also tracks your GPS locations, so it can track your entire track around your yard. Because you're on the phone 911 for a few minutes, correct? So it tracks everywhere you went. It says you were down by the lake area.
For when?
At that time, while you were in that whole time frame from when you called 911 on.
I didn't go down by the lake. I could see it. I didn't go down there.
You know we have a dive team, right? And then we searched the entire lake behind it. Have we found anything else that you think? Nothing else.
Probably old hooks, fishing poles.
Does that look familiar to you? I know it's taken apart.
Is that the camera that's hanging up?
That was outside?
Yeah, it's facing towards the.
See, I look,
Yes, sir.
remember the small cameras you said in the house? This
Yeah,
camera
it's just
was outside here.
Okay, then yeah, it's one of the ones that are facing towards the.
What's the we found?
Okay.
What do you think we found?
One?
No.
There's only one in the house.
No, you know there's one in the house. There's 3 cameras in the house.
Yeah.
I found 3 cameras in the house. I actually found one. Your mom's phone, down by the lake. 3 cameras, down by the lake.
Okay.
You see how this is stacking up?
I understand. But I'm still.
And the only way I can help you is if you come up front and say, we had a fight, there was a total accident, something like that. But that's what happened, then tell me the truth. I need to know that because I can't help you without that.
Right.
Because without that, it's just something horrible got done, and you don't care about it.
Well, no, I definitely do care about it. I'm fairly pissed. It's just. It's not.
Because I can only follow the evidence I have.
I understand.
didn't hit you before pretty much today.
I understand, but I don't. There's nothing that happened where we got into a fight. There was nothing at all. That's the thing. It was a perfectly good day. We were fine. I don't remember anything bad going on that day. It was all just okay.
What we're trying to get at, like I said, it's been about 2 months, a little over 2 months.
I think so.
We've been working at this long clock.
Right.
We're trying to get justice for you.
I don't remember what happened at all from when, like, dogs, from the dogs barking to finding my mom. And once I found my mom, I did panic. Like, really bad. Because mom's there, panicked, and just grabbed the one that's facing the front door. I grabbed her phone, I grabbed the thing. The one that was up there. The Neil back then. I used the Godzilla, but it ended up being whack. And I thought that would win. And then I called either before or after that.
You know why somebody would throw cameras and cell phone?
Well, of course, to hide it, but I completely panicked. I mean,
How many times did you go down by the lake?
I think once.
Just wants to throw the phone and the 3 cameras out?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know if I did it or if what happened, so I just went.
So you don't remember who you did it?
No, I don't.
You see what it looks like, though, right?
Yes, I do. I understand it. That was the biggest thing that's been weighing on my chest was that I did panic and everything. I see that.
Do you realize it doesn't make any sense for you?
It's totally innocent. Yes, I do understand. So that's what's been bothering me the past times that I don't know. I don't remember.
Do you realize it? I need more than that. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to do that.
I do. I know. I understand, and I just don't know. I don't remember whatsoever what happened, what really happened between from when I woke up to then.
But your phone doesn't want to show you too clear.
Okay. I remember being outside at the shed and grabbing the axe. But other than that, that's all I remember. Which is why I also panicked, because I remember the last thing I did was grab the axe.
There's no doubt that you did. It's just why.
Right, I definitely understand. And I want to know that too, because I don't remember any argument whatsoever. Because I remember sharpening the axe, and then all of a sudden it's in the back of her head.
So did you do right after when you sharpened the axe, you walked in the house with that right afterwards? This one I need to know because I gotta be definite on this. I
don't have an exact memory of it, so I don't want to say.
Okay, the best you remember.
Best of my memory, walked in the house with the axe, with not the intent of doing that. I don't know if something was said. Because usually I try to talk to her. I'll say, hey, Mom, get up. We gotta go to work. Or, hey, Mom, we gotta do something. So I don't know if I did that and she made a remark that kind of pushed me over the edge, or if it just all played through.
So after you hit her with the axe, is that when you call 911 right after?
Immediately.
Right after you hit her?
Right after I went, bam, phone, 911, checked her breathing, pulse. But as soon as I saw blood running through her, there was nothing I could do. So then I was just...
You feel better now? It's off your chest?
A little bit, but I still feel like a piece. She was very verbally abusive. And I remember, I do remember being in tears by the time that conversation ended. She backed it up with like strong adjectives and then strong emotions. Like, I'm so disappointed in you, which I've heard that before. Okay, blah, blah. And then she's like, you being a loser. That's why it's like, okay, chill out. And then she kept going, keep going. When I'm punching something or I'm using the axe or whatever, I play the things that my mom's has done and I just get the frustration out of that. I'm like, okay, Mom said this. I visualize what she said in a paragraph and just beat it. How long are we going to be here?
I know it's wrong. Next week we'll take that.
Okay, to take me
You go to our jail here and then transfer for Ocala.
to jail?
Yeah. The jail here is just for processing. You're in DJJ up in Ocala.
So I have a record now.
Oh, you got a record. You don't know what happened. But you have a reason for what happened?
Well, no, I mean, like, is there any way of getting it explained later?
That's worked up the courts. I don't have a reason against it, but it's up to the courts.
I just hope that this doesn't really affect too much because it's still college.
It's all up to the courts.
Carlos was arrested on September 16th, 2019, and charged with first-degree murder for the brutal killing of his mother, Denise. Though he was a teenager at the time, he was charged as an adult and pleaded not guilty. His trial took place 2 years later, in July 2021, where he finally admitted to killing his mother. Carlos claimed it was an impulsive act driven by anger and frustration, not a premeditated act. However, his behavior following Denise's death told a different story. Friends who testified for the prosecution described Carlos as disturbingly indifferent to his mother's death, with one friend even noting that he seemed more excited about inheriting her money and cars than grieving her loss. The prosecution sought to prove that the murder was pre-planned rather than a spontaneous outburst. They presented cell phone data tracking Carlos's movements, showing that he had gone to the shed to retrieve the axe and never actually took a nap as he claimed. Instead, he sharpened the axe and waited nearly 30 minutes before entering Denise's room to carry out the attack. The prosecution argued that during that time, he had multiple chances to reconsider, but instead made the chilling decision to take his mother's life. Psychologists also took the stand, with several experts testifying that Carlos exhibited traits consistent with sociopathy and likely could not be rehabilitated. On July 9th, 2021, after about 90 minutes of deliberation, the jury found Carlos guilty of first-degree murder. He was initially sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, marking the tragic end to the story of a young man who had brutally taken the life of the woman who once tried to save him.